Yes, the refugium I installed about a month ago with only 3 little stems has exploded. Even have some snails in the sump doing that cleanup crew work. But we'll talk more about the sump refugium results in a minute. First, I want to show you guys that you don't even need a sump in order to run a refugium and get similar results. You ready? Let's go. What we have here is the new Aquaready Hang On Back Refugium. It's actually so new that it won't be available for another month or two, meaning May or June of 2024. But don't worry, I'll have links to other models that are available right now as well in the description below. The Aquaready is the new economical choice, one of the more affordable ones you'll find, going for about 100 to 150 bucks. Mainly because it doesn't come with its own light. You gotta buy that separately. The Aquaready comes 90% assembled and does not require any plumbing. It's ideal for tanks 20 gallons or greater. The unit itself is 16 3/4 inches long by 3 1/4 inch wide, and it's 12 3/4 inch in height. The measurement you really want to know though is the size of your tank's rim. This puppy fits rim size up to 3/4 inch, and just for reference, it fit on the rim of my 210 gallon tank. Hold that. Comes with a return pump and inlet tube and a little sponge for more beneficial bacteria surface area. The rear panel is clear glass to allow for natural light to enter the refugium and keep your plants doing their job. Photosynthesis. Okay, so right now I'm gonna show you how to assemble this very complicated unit. I hope it comes off well. Wish me luck, guys. So first thing you do is you grab the power cord and you pull the motor right out of the unit. There you go. There's the motor. Then you grab your intake tube that came separate and you install it into the motor. You'll hear a click and you'll feel that it doesn't go in anymore. There you go. Then, very complicated step, you put it right back in. Assembled. Okay, let's be real for a second. This is really just a very nicely designed box that's gonna hold water and hold your plants and hold the light on top here and act as a refugium. Water's just gonna get pulled right through the intake tube via the motor inside. It's gonna fill up the chamber and then it's gonna overflow right outside this basket. This little block just prevents any plants from escaping out of your refugium and going into your tank, and the water spills right back into your tank. That's pretty much it. That literally is the simplicity behind a refugium. You just have to run nutrient-rich water through the refugium so that the plant growing inside of it can absorb those nutrients along with the light source and remove the nutrients from the tank water. Yeah, it's simple, but it works. All right, now is the fun part. Let's go ahead and install this bad boy. First thing first, I'm gonna remove my light. That's hot. I gotta turn it off first. So the unit itself is about 3 1/4 inches thick. First step is to make sure I have enough space behind the tank because I'm not moving this bad boy. Okay, looks like I got about 3 1/2 because of the windowsill back here. Let's see if it can get in there. First, I gotta remove my glass tops. They have these plastic covers in the back. Actually, I don't have to remove the whole glass top. I'm just gonna move it out of the way for now. Now, this plant that's being held by the Pato carry right here, that's definitely gonna have to move. So I'm going to just slide it over this way because this plant has kind of grown that way with the rest of them. And I hope I'm not pulling and breaking any roots, but they'll grow back. All right, let's see if we have enough space here to get the box in. Lengthwise is about 16 1/2. Should be able to fit in this bay as long as this pot holder, this Pato carry holder doesn't stop us. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Get back there. You hear it squeezing in there? All right. So I just got over the lip on my frame. It's a good thing. If not, I would have had to saw a piece of this frame off just to get it in, but I think it's gonna hold right there. It's not gonna go anywhere from there. That thing is secure. Intake, I think I'm gonna try to spin it and move it behind the background. Yeah, that'll work. Looks like it's in. Let's check it out. So first of all, check out the profile up above the tank. It's just a little piece of black box sticking out there. Can't see anything. It looks pretty good up above the tank. It's not an eyesore or anything, so that's good. Here's an up top view. As you can see, I've got the intake tube actually going behind my background, and it just barely made it over the frame. You see it's in this little lip right there. But even if it wasn't secure like that, all I would have to do is cut that frame off and that piece will go right through there and it will hold on. But both sides here kind of holding on there. You could tighten the screws a little bit, make sure it's in there. But check this thing out. There's no play, there's no movement. Also the fact that it's holding against my wall back here, so that's a good thing. But I'm sure even if it wasn't so close to the wall, this thing is gonna hang on nice and tight. Now just adjust these plastic strips. Maybe just have this piece in the middle here. Probably slide that over. Let me see if I can slide it. There we go. Remove this piece. This piece is not needed anymore. See how that looks. There you go. Look at that. As water overflows out through here, it'll hit the sponge and it's gonna go all down into the back of the background. Now, if it comes out too strong, it might hit the top of this glass and get water up here. So for now, I'm gonna back this off just to see how the flow goes when we power this baby up. This is dead leaf right here. Bye. All right, we're gonna get this thing going by filling it with some tank water. Getting that pump nice and wet. Assume you just need enough water to submerge the pump, and that should be good enough. All right, here we go. First of all, I hear absolutely nothing, which is a good thing. That means it's nice and quiet. Looks like that pump might be struggling a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit more water. You know what I'm doing also? I'm increasing the water volume of the tank. Now that I'm adding the water into that refugium back there, taking water out of the tank, which means I could fill it with more fresh water. That means it's a total increase of water volume. Kind of like what a sump would do, but without a sump. All right, let's check it out. Kind of full now. I don't know if it's drawing in its own water. Let's finish filling it up all the way and we'll see if we get some output flow coming through here. I don't think it's gonna fill itself up. Okay, so it takes a little bit of time for the pump to pump all the air out of the tube, but eventually it does get to flowing. So here we go, we got a nice little flow right here. Very low flow, and water is traveling from the intake behind the background into the refugium and out through this little spout right here, back into the tank behind the background. So let's see if I can put my glass all the way back and it won't. Yeah, it's coming out so slow that it's not gonna hit the glass and pile on top here. So when you install this thing and it feels like it's not really pulling water, don't freak out. Just give it some time. Eventually it'll get all the air out. You'll get a nice flow going. So now, what do we have to install? We need some plants. What am I gonna use as the plant inside my refugium? The same water sprite plant that I used in my Sump refugium. I'm just gonna grab a handful of it and transfer it over into the Hang On Back refugium. Grab a nice rooted layer here. Wow, this stuff, look at this. Crazy. And I wanna start with something really small so I can actually be able to see the growth inside the Hang On Back refugium. This is too much, too big. So all these roots are intertwined. Here we go, here we go. All right, there we go. We got a piece here. There's some good roots. Nice and separated. Transfer commencing. No, you guys cannot eat this plant. Sorry, Gordo, it's not for you to eat. You're never gonna get it. Drop it right in. Beautiful thing about the water sprite is that it just needs to be floated. Doesn't have to be rooted. Drop it right in there. And now we got our plant inside our refugium. That's so dope. And if you guys can't tell, this back panel of the refugium has an open glass back there. You can see right through it, so that your room light, your natural light can come into the back of the refugium on top of the light that we're about to install right now. That is the next and final piece of the refugium. We need light, baby. Last but not least, we gotta put our light in. So I'm gonna use the AI Blade refugium light, only because the cool guys over at BRS sent me this. Now, this is an expensive light. You don't have to use this. You can use something a lot less expensive, but that also means it's gonna be less bright. The reason why I really wanna use this Blade refugium is because I've got all my other Blade lights tied to my app, and I'm gonna be able to control this through the same app. Very cute. Very cute little Fugilite. The blade Fugilite. I like it. Let's hook this baby up. And it's got these nice little end hooks here so that it can sit nice and snug on your refugium. And then there was light. Don't ask me why it's purple. Apparently that's good for plants, but we've got a purple light. Now the light is going to change in intensity as the night goes by. Right now I got the light at 60% power. I'm gonna start with that and then judge how the plant is doing, if it's growing, if it's burning, if it's melting, and I'll adjust from there. But for right now, that looks dope. I like it. So what's the deal with the refugium anyway? Why not just put live plants in the tank? I'm glad you asked. I know it might come as a shock to some of you, but some of us don't want live plants in our tanks.
Oh my God. What are you saying?
I know it's a shocker. We want to keep fish in our tanks and not a whole bunch of plants. But there's also some of us that can't keep plants in our tanks even if we wanted to because of the fish we keep. Like my African cichlid tank, those fish will either eat all the plants or just destroy them and uproot them. Or just like my Severum tank. These Severums are going to go after any plant that you put in the tank. So it's impossible to keep them in there. For that reason is why you see that I have plants growing above the tanks with their roots submerged in the water. This is so I can get some benefits of the plants like removing nitrates, removing phosphates, and just making the water cleaner in general. Even the big old 450 behind me does have some live plants in the tank. They're just now starting to regrow and look like they're gonna be okay, but that's nowhere near enough plants that you need to actually cause a significant difference in the tank. This is where the refugium comes in. The refugium is just a chamber separate from the rest of the tank and separate from the fish where you can grow plants and get the same plant benefits. But the refugium has a bonus element. Whether you keep live plants in the tank submerged or above the tank emerged, all of those plants are only photosynthesizing during the day when the lights are on. So they're doing their thing. They are absorbing CO2 and releasing oxygen. They are absorbing nitrates. They are absorbing phosphates. That's exactly what we want plants to do. But they only do it during the day. They can't photosynthesize at night when the lights are out. Cue the refugium, buddy. Your refugium light can be scheduled to turn on at night. The 12 hours of darkness when the tank lights are off, when the room lights are off, when the daylight is gone. And that plant will be photosynthesizing at night, doing all the things that plants do during the day. Your refugium plant is doing it at night. So basically you get a 24-hour round-the-clock benefit of what plants can do. And you don't have to worry about your fish destroying them and eating them and wasting a whole bunch of money and stress that you can't keep plants alive inside the tank. Just do it in your refugium, they'll stay alive. Plenty of nutrients, plenty of light, they'll stay alive. So what's the deal with the Hang On Back Refugium? Well, a lot of us don't have sumps to have a plant growing inside our refugium in the sump. So the Hang On Back Refugium is a great alternative. Now I do have some proof and evidence of how good the refugium has been working in my 450 since about a month ago that I installed it. That 450 gallon tank has not gotten a water change in over 3 weeks. And a few days ago, I wanted to get an accurate test of what these water parameters were. So I took a test over to my local fish shop where they use a $2,000 Aquaspin unit that gives you a digital readout of your water parameters. No, I'm not saying that any of you should go out and buy a $2,000 unit. I don't think many of us can afford that, along with everything else that we spend money on in this hobby. But you might be lucky enough that your local fish store has made the investment to buy that machine and keep it in the store so that when you need to come in and test your water, they probably charge you about $5 to test your water. That's exactly what I did. And these are my test results. Check this out. Now, while the phosphates might be a little bit high, that's okay. That's why I'm still getting a little bit of algae on my glass and I gotta scrub it away. But check out the nitrate levels. 14 parts per million nitrate levels in a tank that's got 2 huge arowanas, about 20 discus, about 6 geophagus, and 3 plecos. And after 3 weeks of no water change, I've got 14 parts per million of nitrates. That is 100% all accredited to the refugium that's happening in that tank. You guys already saw the explosiveness and the growth of that water sprite plant. and that's what's causing the reduction in nitrate. Now, does that mean that I'm gonna just stop doing water changes altogether, guys, because my nitrates are low?
No, of course not.
Water changing has many more benefits than just nitrate removal. I've been preaching that for years. But because the tank is so big and has so much water volume, I don't want to do big, huge water changes every week. That's a lot of water, that's a lot of work. So now the Refugium is helping me prolong the water changes. Maybe I can go every 4 weeks now, hopefully maybe even 6 weeks before needing a water change. What I'm doing in between is dosing the tank with Seachem Trace so that I am replacing the minerals in the water that the fish are depleting with time. Here's the test results for my African cichlid tank after only 1 week of no water change, because that tank gets weekly water changes. 60 parts per million nitrate, which is pretty normal, typical for that tank, which is why I do weekly water changes. So hopefully with time, the Hang On Back Refugium, as that plant grows, maybe I can get that nitrate number down as well, and maybe I can go to every 2 weeks of a water change on this big tank. That's what the goal is, not to ever eliminate water changes completely, because you should always be water changing your tanks. That's very beneficial in multiple ways. I know I'm beating the dead horse here, guys, but I'd like to extend the frequency of my water changes, and the Refugium is going to help do that. Now, while the Refugium might help extend out the frequency of water changes, what about vacuuming your tank and removing all that waste and poop from your substrate? Well, what if I told you you never had to vacuum again? Check it out. But before you go, make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. It helps it out a lot. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.